Hi everyone, and welcome to That's Mental. And today I want to talk about the moment I learned to let go and how that really was a complete changing point in my life and in my career and also in my mental health. Now I'm going to link up here in the video, but also in the description box, I'm going to put links to the other videos I've made where I've talked about my story, because it kind of helps to understand the context. You might want to watch a few of those other ones before you watch this one. Now, if you've followed my journey this far, you will know that I was really emotionally invested in my work. I was working, of course, like crazy, but I mostly, one of the things that really caused me to burn out was the fact that I was so invested and I cared so much. On top of that, I was a perfectionist. I am now a recovering perfectionist, but I used to relentlessly push myself to succeed, to do everything to the highest standards. And that was also really exhausting. If I received criticism of what I did, of course, I would be really upset because I was pushing myself so hard. And also I used to take things a lot more personally than I do nowadays as well. So, all of this together just added to the poor mental health and the bad situation that I was in. So at a certain point in the agency, I was working almost exclusively for one client. So practically all of my projects were on them. And to be honest, they were a really difficult client. They were really hard to work with. They were almost never happy with our ideas. They were constantly challenging us and asking to start over again. They wanted things to be turned around quickly, which client doesn't. When they weren't happy, they would immediately complain to higher management. So it just, again, a lot of stress and pressure coming from working with this one client. And then last of all, there were problems in communication because they were from a different country. They were not native English speakers. And I often feel that this can cause a lot of tension and a lot of problems between people, because now with hindsight, I just think that probably a lot of the stuff that they said, they didn't really mean it, or they didn't know how to express it properly. It just came out the way it did. But a lot of the time it sounded really dry, really angry, really rude, really disrespectful, and I really hated that. One of my biggest values is respect, and actually that's one of the reasons why I quit working in the agency. So I really struggled with that as well. I absolutely hated the relationship because I just felt that I was being disrespected, and it was really hard for me to continue under those circumstances. So I didn't really like this client, and I had been trying to change. I was like, I don't want to work for them anymore, take me off this project. But because they were so big, that was really difficult to do, and practically everybody worked on this, well, not practically everybody, but a lot of our colleagues worked on this project. But then one day, out of the blue, I received some negative feedback that really shook me to my core. It just completely took me by surprise, and I was absolutely destroyed. I remember my manager took me aside to tell me that they had received some negative feedback from the client about me that they were about to share with me. And I was really surprised because, to be honest, although I didn't like them, I have always been really good at my job and really diligent and kind of delivered. So I was a bit surprised. And at the same time, my anxiety brain kind of always imagines the worst scenario, oh my God, they're gonna fire me, they hate me, la la la, like crazy, spinning out of control. So nevertheless, I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh my God, what is it gonna be, And then they told me that the client had said that, first of all, that they thought I wasn't that good at my job, that I wasn't a very good project manager. And that really, really upset me, because I was like, I know I'm good at my job. I know I'm a good project manager, something I pride myself on. But when somebody says that about you, it really, at least for me, it really made me doubt myself, really shook me. I was like, oh my God. It just kind of brings up all of this self-doubt, right? And that's not a nice place to be. Even if you are confident for a second or two, you doubt yourself. So I took that really hard. And then the other piece of feedback that the client gave was that they could tell that, or they felt that I didn't really like them, and I didn't really like working with them, and they didn't enjoy that. They didn't like the feeling they were getting, and they had decided then, well, they also didn't want to work with me anymore either. And I was devastated. I was like, what? And as you can imagine, you will know that for our survival, like fitting in, being part of a group, being liked is very important for humans, right? So not only was of course I was upset, you know, because suddenly I was like, oh my God, they don't like me. And I don't know what else was going through my mind. I don't fit in anymore, you know, I'm going to be an outcast, whatever, you know. It was really quite devastating, even though I didn't like that person, but I just couldn't believe that they'd actually said that about me, you know, and wow, I was just so upset and shocked and taken by surprise. But anyway, I remember that I even went outside. I will remember this because I left the office to kind of have a mental breakdown, and I went into the street and I was literally sobbing in the street. I was really upset. That weekend I had planned on going away to a salsa festival with some friends. So I got in the car and we started driving down to the south of France. And a strange thing happened, because I actually did tell my friends about this in the car as we were driving down, and I was like, yeah, I got this negative feedback and I'm a bit upset about it and everything. But because we were going on a way to a salsa festival, and it's something that I really, really love, and I just wanted to be there with my friends and have a great time, you know, and not let myself get dragged down by this. Suddenly something changed in my brain and I was like, oh my God, this is actually a gift. Because suddenly I realized, like, you don't even like this client. You don't even like this project. You didn't want to work with them. Yeah, I remember thinking to myself, like, you didn't want to work with them. You've been trying to get rid of them. And now finally life is giving you a gift. Like, you are being given the chance to be freed of this client, of something that you didn't like, that you were trying to get away from anyway. And I just was almost a bit mind blown, like, holy shit, it's a gift. And I just turned it around completely, how I'd been feeling about it, into something positive. And it was such a major breakthrough for me, because in that moment I just stopped caring and I wasn't as upset anymore. And I kind of just, I think I must have felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders, you know. Once I reframed the narrative, I was able to depersonalize it, to realize that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me being bad, having a bad job, being a bad person, you know. It wasn't so personal anymore, well, like I said. And I also started thinking, like, wait a minute, there's all of these other people that have struggled with this client, right? And I started remembering all of my other colleagues who'd worked on this client, who'd really struggled with it, how many times we'd had to, you know, to change colleagues that were on the team, how many other people had felt completely destroyed by them, their behavior, the projects, you know, even our like manager, somebody who's like higher up than I was in the organization, had failed, had not succeeded in making this client happy, had actually been removed from the account themselves, you know. And I just thought, if all of these people before me have failed and have struggled with it and have found it hard, and, you know, the client is really that difficult, and, you know, nobody else likes it, and this is a hard job, this is a really difficult job, I realized it's not about me. Many other people have tried and failed. And, you know, that was also a massive relief to realize that not that I wasn't the problem, but more that I wasn't responsible for this failure, that it was something that happened, that it had happened to other people. And yeah, it's really difficult to explain it to you, but this was a huge turning point for me, like I said at the beginning of the video, because from this moment on, I was really able to just completely let go of things and not take them so personally, really reframe the perspective. Like I said, you know, I was really able to suddenly see things that in the past I would have taken so badly and been really upset by. I would have beaten myself up for days over this. In fact, that's what my coach said to me, you know, at the time. He's like, you would have beaten yourself up for days over this. And suddenly I no longer had this voice in the back of my head that just felt terrible for failing and was just going on and on about how bad it was and what a disaster and how am I going to make it back and what can I do to get it back, and, you know, just all of these things that I used to feel. And that was it. What I really want to emphasize here is that, you know, this might sound like one of those cheesy cliche moments where people will tell you, oh yeah, you know, just turn it on its head and you'll be fine, you know, just shift your perspective and it's going to be okay. But like, what I really want to say here is I didn't even have to try. I didn't have to force myself to change perspective. I can understand how this is an annoying piece of feedback or advice because it can be really difficult to do. But what I want you to know is that from experience, the time that it happened to me naturally and I was able to do that, it was the most life-changing thing for me. So really, if you ever find yourself in a moment where you're trying to shift your perspective or someone is telling you to do that, or maybe you're even just doing it for the sake of it, you know, like you're doing an exercise, trying to turn a bad into something good, just really try to imagine that it does actually work. Like it's not a hoax. But I do think that you have to be ready for these kind of realizations. I don't think you can force a change of perspective, and by that I mean that it has to come at the right moment in your life when you feel ready to hear it or to believe it. For sure, at that point in time, you know, I had already been going through a lot. I'd been doing coaching for a few years and I'd already gone through a few different steps where, you know, for example, I'd started setting better boundaries and I'd stopped working so much, and I'd already kind of come to various realizations about the situation that I was in. So I think that the accumulation of all of these small steps are really what helped me in that moment suddenly just be like, wow, my perspective has changed. And like I said at the beginning of this video, to this day, I can tell the difference between the person I was before that moment and the person that I am now. And like I said, it's been really life-changing. And I think that's where I've kind of arrived in the middle, where I feel committed to my job, I'm still delivering, but no longer at my expense. Now, how this relates to, I mean, all of it relates to mental health, but in particular, how it relates to burnout is, I think that from that moment on, because I was really able to much better distinguish between, okay, this is someone else's problem or someone else is burdening me with this, versus taking it on and making it my problem and my responsibility. I used to really carry this massive burden of the success of the agency, of the success of the team, of the success of the project, of the client happiness, like all of this I used to carry on my shoulders, right? And of course that's a huge amount of stress and emotional burden. And after that, I was able to really feel the separation, be like, no, this is not my problem actually. Like I've done my part, I've tried my hardest, and that's all I had to do. And again, when it comes to burnouts, that was very liberating, because when you are carrying all of that responsibility, that's how you can go down this rabbit hole where you feel so responsible for everything that you're just constantly stressed out and worried about the outcome. But for me, one of the key things I want you to know, one of the key messages about this video is like, first of all, be kind to yourself. I think this is the most important thing. I know it can be really hard when you're stuck in the moment, when you're really working like crazy. It can be hard to suck yourself out, to take a step back, you know, if you're anxious, if you're a perfectionist, if you're, you know, still in that place, it can be really difficult. But please just remember to be kind to yourself, be gentle. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. You know, this is something that you would say to somebody else, to an intern, to whoever arrived in your team. So try to apply it to yourself. Recognize when you've tried your hardest and you've really done your best, you know, recognize that and be kind to yourself and appreciate how far you've gone and what you've done, and kind of be okay with it ending there. Yeah, I really think self-compassion is one of the best tools we can learn to protect ourselves in the workplace and to protect ourselves from burnout. It is really difficult, I'm not gonna lie. I've read the articles, I've not read the book, I will link it in the description. You know, I know a lot about it in theory. In practice, I still find it difficult to apply. But I really do believe that when it comes to burnout and toxic work cultures, you know, it's already hard enough as it is. So if you can be that kinder, more gentle voice to yourself, even if it's from time to time, not all the time because you need to practice, then that is really, really going to help you, I believe, from experiencing burnout and more stress and anxiety. So next time something bad happens to you at work, see if you're able to reframe it. Maybe try, what would a positive story be? Just ask yourself, if you reframed it, what would it look like? And if this seems hard to you, you can either do two things. Don't overdo it. So maybe try and just pick something small and change it into a positive, or on the contrary, like just overdo it to the extreme, like make it wildly positive to the point where it's almost laughable. Maybe taking it to the total extreme can help you and make it seem better. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up. I will be coming back with more content, so please watch this space. And if you want to see more stories on my journey, then comment below.